Okay, we're going to look at solver modeling for aggregate planning. So we are going to use the same problem like what we did in class, problem number 2. Okay, we have demand and the same number of days per month, 20. Standard hours is 4. Hours per day is 8. Overtime limit is 30%. And here the costs are given, the initial conditions are given. So we're going to set up a solver model, but first the factors that we will need. Production rate per day per worker is number of hours per day divided by standard hours. So that will give us the production rate per worker per day, and you multiply that production rate with the number of days per month. So that gives us the production rate per month per worker. You don't have to compute it in this fashion. This is one way, and you can use a different way if you like. Now, wage rate per worker per month. So we have 8 hours and 20 days per month. Okay, so that's the total number of hours multiplied by the wage rate. Wage rate is done. Remember, when you do the modeling, you have to set this up with formulas. You can't simply calculate the numbers and enter the numbers. You have to set it up as formulas. Overtime rate per unit, so that is your cost. Overtime cost per unit. So again, you have 4 hours of labor multiplied by the overtime wage rate. So these are the factors that we need. Now we're going to set this up with two different tables. We'll have one table for number of workers, another table for production. So we're going to use this range, number of workers we have to hire, number of workers we have to fire, as changing cells in the solvers. You remember way back when we did project management CPM, we did a solver problem. It's something like that, with some differences, of course, and we're going to use this range also as changing cells: overtime production and subcontracting production. So we begin with the initial number of workers, which is given. Initial number of workers is the initial condition, so here that's 8. So if we begin with 8, how many workers we will have producing in the month of January? So you start with 8, you add the number of workers we're going to hire minus the number of workers we're going to fire. So that will give us the number of workers we will have producing in the month of January. Of course, right now these two cells are blank because we haven't run the solver model yet. We have to set up the model first and then run solver, and when we run solver we will have numbers for those cells. Now again, we start February with the number of workers we had in January, and then we repeat the same formula, so we can just copy that down, and we'll have to put the border back. So when we copy the final cell, the border goes away. So now we can copy the February beginning to the rest of them. Now again, put the border back. So that sets up our initial table, or the first table, the workers table. The second is the inventory table, or production inventory table. Or beginning inventory is our current inventory of 150. Okay. Now regular time production is going to come directly from the number of workers we have. So number of workers multiplied by production rate per month per worker, which is here. Now the production rate per month should always be B21, so we have to press the F4 key and make it absolute reference, $B, $21. Now if you copy that down, okay, that will give us, put the border back, that will give us the production coming from regular time each month. Now, the overtime and subcontracting production are going to be determined by solver. Now, demand is known, it's given right here, so let's put the demand down there. Now we can set up the formulas for ending inventory. So ending inventory is beginning inventory, okay, plus the three different production, okay, regular time, overtime, subcontracting. That's the quantity that will be added to the inventory minus demand. So this will give us the ending inventory, and that ending inventory will be the beginning inventory for February. So now we can copy this for the rest of the months and copy that for the rest of the months. Of course, you can have negative values, but when we run solver, when these ranges are populated with numbers, we'll be fine. Now, there is overtime limit, remember, okay, overtime is limited to 30%, and we have to make that absolute reference, and then multiply by the regular time production. This limit is with respect to regular time production. So that is the amount of overtime that is allowed. We need to use that as a constraint. So the numbers that go here must be less than or equal to the overtime